when the child grows up, they lose this innate ability to absorb and accept reality in a very simple, I would say, truthful way. So what happens? I'm not talking about external influence as you grow up so much. I'm talking about within a person's being. What happens when they get older, when they're no longer children, that
they absorb,
that keeps them from being able to tap into this innate ability that they've got to say, oh yeah, of course it's true. What happens?
Because it's overwhelming.
It can't just be pure brainwashing of authority. I mean, because they still have a free will. I mean,
but again, their will. That's the thing about their free will. Their free will propels them in the direction of exploring. Of like, what is this? And they look at the clouds. And they just wonder. They have a sense of imagination, which is free. It gets their mind to go where it wants to go. Their attention goes where it wants to go. The problem then starts as adults, where we tell children, do this, do that, pay attention to me, listen to the teacher and take notes. That's when we forget.
It's sort of, So it's almost like a form of a distraction from exploring.
We train children to be ADD, attention deficit, because our attention goes in places where it naturally is not going. Because we change our nature. We change the nature of children.
So they stop asking questions.
Right. For the sake to become automatons.
Or they might think they don't need to answer questions because it's not important anymore.
Right, eventually they feel that. They feel like, because children at a very young age, they ask, and all parents know that, they have all these millions of questions. Why is this? Why is that? Why is God allowed for the suffering? And we then tell them, stop asking, go to school. And so eventually, after they get bombarded, every time they have these questions, they get shut down, eventually they stop asking.
Right.
That's the drama, that's the real drama.
Right.
And that's where the trauma also begins.
Or they ask without really questioning the answer anymore. They ask thinking that the answer is something that they can
it's all they need. That's
pull off a tree.
It's the ultimate truth.
They no longer have to use their own
judgment.
Right. They can trust the judgment of others that are influencing them, and that becomes objective reality.
Right, and that's when our thinking is done for us by others, because we stop thinking for ourselves. Because again, authority is so strong to tell us what to do and what to think.
Okay, so you're questioning authority, you're questioning the outside influence. What about questioning yourself?
Well, of course you do that. You do then question what it is you know, but before that even can happen, we need to have the strengths to even question that the things we have been told might not be correct. It might not be correct that what we learn about history, or what we learn about whatever politics and the economy and the market. We don't question it because that's the reality.
Yeah, I understand.
We have market, we have the haves and the have-nots, and we have struggle, we have class struggle, we have war, and these things are just a given. So we don't question it, we just learn about it. We learn facts, we learn information, and we just learn to regurgitate it, basically.
So in other words,
without questioning.
So many distractions that most people never actually get to the point where they are questioning themselves, because they don't even question what someone else tells them is true.
Of course.
So if someone got to, let's say, past first base to the level where they were moving along questioning themselves, then they could say, is what I think true, like you said, because someone else told me? Is what I believe based on me thinking for myself? And if I am thinking for myself, is this truly objective or is it subjective? Am I kidding myself? Or do I have enough information to be able to make the judgment?
Right, I think the term that comes to mind here is intuition. Intuition, not just going to school and paying for tuition and all these things which totally distract us from that, from our inner voice, which tells us what's right and what's wrong, what's good and what's true. Our inner voice tells us, this is me, and I know when I feel happy, and I know when people treat me nicely, or I know when people put me down and shut me off, and then I feel bad. But as this happens so many times, when people shoot me down
Right.
and tell me that you should do this and that, eventually we stop rebelling, we stop fighting, because it's a war. It's impossible to win. Unless you are a complete rebel, which is then you become asocial and you don't have any friends, and people look at you like an outcast.
But you could shut down then too, even internally.
Right, but that's also seductive about our society. It's so much easier to give in to the herd mentality.
Right.
Be like everyone else, and then you can you have after school recreation and basketball or soccer, and you can go to parties. And
the distraction.
Right, and your parents give you a pat on the back because you're a good little boy or a good little girl.
Right. So you have to have tap into your intuition. In other words, if you have intuition,
follow your intuition.
Then you look into it, right?
Right, of course. That's the whole point. I'm glad, because that's the thing. The answers lie within. It's not outside, and that's where we become distracted to look outside, because we are so externally focused that we forget to look within.
What are some of the questions I would ask of myself?
Who am I? Who am I? We talk about identity, right? Where does identity come from?
Okay.
That's where it all begins, because we are not just, as we tell children, we ask children when they grow up, when they go to school, and all this, so what do you want to be, or who do you want to be when you grow up? Which is, I always thought, the most ridiculous question, because of course I want to be me.
Right.
I don't want to just be a job and be a lawyer or a banker. I want to be who I am.
Right. You have to be.
I don't want to be.
Right. You have to be before you do.
Of course.
In other words, your being should affect your doing. Your doing should not affect your being. Right. It's backwards.
Right.
What are some things that I know or need to know about myself in order to come a little bit closer to having this knowledge that's gonna make me freer, as far as really being myself? And
I think the main question is, if you examine yourself and you look at yourself in the mirror and you look at your life, I think the main question is, am I happy? Am I happy being who I am? Am I happy doing what I'm doing? Am I feeling, it's even better not even being happy. Do I feel good about myself? That's a question about self-esteem, which is a huge one for obvious reasons, for children growing up.
You could ask you could say what makes me happy, and then you could say, why is everyone not always happy?
But also the question is, you said something about make me happy. If real happiness is a mindset,
there you go.
It's not really about this makes me happy, this makes me sad. It's just through the experience of being alive, and I'm being who I am, I'm happy, I'm content.
Well, that actually explains why a lot of people aren't happy.
Right, of course.
So happiness is a very conditional thing.
Yeah. Well, the pursuit of happiness is just the best example.
Right. Obviously, if you're
pursuing happiness, come on now.
Yeah.
What is this?
I have a list right here. This is going to make me happy. I can guarantee you.
Right. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4. I tell you what you need.
The list keeps getting longer all the time. In fact, yeah. Right. So obviously, there comes a point where you have to examine for yourself what you believe is accurate knowledge, and you have to have a way of testing it and finding out if it is indeed lines up with your own personal experience, based on experience, if it lines up with what is actually objective reality. It's in there, the thing we're drawing it out.
It is in there. That's what we're trying to do, draw it out, because it's there. You have wisdom, you have truth. I like the saying, a Buddhist proverb says that no knowledge is of any value unless it arises from within yourself. And that's the key. No teacher can really teach you anything.
Well, it has
you have to know it for yourself.
You have to know it and know that you know it. And that's the thing.
And so what we're talking about here is a very different kind of awareness, which has to do with listening within yourself and becoming aware of what it is you hear.
Yeah.
Following your own intuition is supposed to be following what other people tell you.
So
listen within yourself. I think that's probably one of the main messages. Listen, pay attention. However you feel, that's the truth. I've come to find, a while ago came up with that idea that feelings are nature speaking to you. And that's really about nature and about your inner voice. That's a natural thing. And it's not artificial production, consumption-oriented life. This is like your higher voice. This is like it's God speaking to you if you really listen within yourself. So it's very important when you feel an emotion, whatever emotion you feel, to check yourself. To stand back for a minute and say, what's happening here? Why do I feel the way I do?
Right.
Where is it coming from?